Hey, everybody. Adam Savage in my cave. I am pausing in the middle of one day build to start another one because I just got something from Craigslist and I'm kind of psyched about it. It is this. It is this, which is it is an XY rotary table. It is an XY rotary table. You rotate it with this. You can move it on the XY plane with these. And I occasionally just go looking for stuff that looks interesting or like I might be able to use it. And this actually looked like a nice casting. It looked like a nicely made piece. Unfortunately, whatever label was on it is totally destroyed. It's looks just nothing there. Wait a second, I think I can almost see something there. Hang on. I'm sure that someone out there can tell me who made this, but let's see here. Chicago Tool and Engineering Company. All right, Chicago, made in Chicago, Illinois. So this looks to me like a nice piece. I will also tell you that it is greasy and rusty as hell, but you know, you get an intuition for these things. And this looks very, very tunable back to a perfect working order. That's what this feels like. It doesn't look like it's seen a lot of heavy use in its lifetime, actually. I don't see tool marks in it or on it, which is usually one of the first things you would notice. There's a lot of moving parts to this, and I am going to take this apart entirely and get it into some de-rusting stuff. And then I'm going to let it sit in there for a couple of days, let it fully de-rust, and then I am going to stone the flat surfaces and tune it back and bring it into a working order. I couldn't be more excited. This is such, I feel like, this could allow me to do some things I would not be able to do otherwise. But I am sort of curious. I've actually been looking for some YouTube videos about using XY rotary tables, because it is definitely not a common piece of equipment. And yeah, if you know of any, let me know in the comments. But for right now, let's start taking this thing apart. Well, I just pulled off the top and it actually seems to be in stunning condition. This thing seems to have gotten very little wear over its lifespan, which is awesome. So we are going to continue the unmantling. Okay. Aha, I see. Oh, okay. So that's the, oh, fascinating. Okay. It has one way that it goes on. That's great. Alexa, play. Yeah. So there was an assembly of this and it happened off camera. And this is a funny end to a video. This is going to be very anticlimactic because it turns out this is actually, while being a beautiful piece of equipment, aesthetically, that was so never used, there was still some of this turquoise metallic paint on some of the set screws. That means that this thing has literally not been touched by a tool since it left the factory. Or that's a good indication that it has been rarely touched by a tool. And the lack of any tooling marks make that even more clear. Why is this anticlimactic ending? It's because this thing is totally useless to me. As pretty as it is. And there's a couple of reasons for it. This is made by Palmgren. And as I've been lurking through the home machinist forums and subreddits and practical machinist stuff, what I've discovered is that no one knows what these are good for. That's not quite true. This is an XY table of some nice robustness. And it is a rotary table with some repeatability. Every machine that you use has what you call, let's start with backlash. Every machine that one uses has what you would refer to as backlash. So when I am turning the knob that moves my mill table back and forth, when I'm turning all of these knobs, there is a tiny delay. It's about that. Right there. That's about my backlash on my mill. And backlash is something that that's just a re-engagement of the screw that trucks along the main Acme thread that runs the thing to pick up again. And it's inherent. You can't fully eliminate backlash. You can reduce it to a significant degree. And a finely tuned machine is a work of art. But digital readout reduces the critical need for a complete lack of backlash, specifically because it gives you an exact dead reckoning of where you are. Dead reckoning? It just tells you precisely where you are. The reason to reduce backlash is because back before we had digital readout scales on mills, you were only using the little scales on the wheels here. And when you had backlash, you actually had to be able to adjust for that backlash, which is a real mental calisthenic. The backlash on the top of this little baby on its rotary table. So come on. Oh, come now. There we go. So the backlash on the XY feed is actually pretty respectable. But check this out. That's like That's like 30 thousandths of backlash on this between the worm drive screw and the main thing that turns here. And there's not an adjustability built into this to eliminate that backlash. That's the thing. On milling machines and other machines that are made for long-term hard-wearing utility, you can keep adjusting the backlash. There's a whole thing for Bridgeport owners about when that brass split nut has to finally go the way of the ghost and you've got to go replace it whole hog, which is not a crazy difficult operation. So there's a lot to go over here. The reason for having a rotary table for your milling machines is to cut large radii. That is one of the specific ones. So you mount a piece in here. Let's say you need a long curve cut. You mount it in. You know where the spindle is in relation to the center of your rotary table. And let's say you need a 46-degree cut. You move the rotary table 46 degrees while the end mill is going, and you mill those wide radiuses. And you can do really spectacular things with them, but not when they've got that much backlash on them. That's a chatter nightmare. But that's not the biggest problem with, I mean, there might be ways to fix that. Might be able to get a different worm. Anyway,
That's not the deal breaker, actually. I mean, it's when I finally cleaned it up and saw that, I was like, whoa, that's not cool. And then I went trolling through the forums and discovered, okay, one of the other things that a rotary table plus an XY table can be really useful at is cutting radiused rectangles like this. Hold on. So let's say this rectangle has one of those 1/4 inch radii in each corner. You can use a rotary table to cut those if you have an XY table on top of your rotary table. And it goes like this. Your rotary table's center sits right here, and you make your cut like this, and then you move the XY this way. Now you're on center. You go like this. You make this cut like this. You go down here. You make that cut like this. And in all of these ways, the relationship between the center of the rotary table and the spindle can remain in a nifty orientation while the XY moves. Look, it takes a bunch of math. This is non-trivial operation, but I think I've been wrapping my head around this all weekend, so forgive me if I'm not explaining it carefully enough. But when the XY table is on top of the rotary table, it becomes pretty reasonable to cut stuff like this. When it's underneath, the two have no functionally important relationship to each other. So what is this good for? Well, I'll tell you, this is like a phenomenal thing for your drill press. If you don't have a milling machine, but you regularly need to do like hole patterns, circular or semicircular hole patterns, this is a stunner. This is a great machine for that. Chuck this into your drill press. Plus, you can use this just as a vice table and get XY coordinates so you can get really nice, precise XY and rotational drilling for the drill press. That is a non-trivial usage, but it's really if you don't have any machine tools, but you still want that kind of precision. I love the size of this tool. I love the 6 and the 8 inch, the smaller, yeah, that's an 8 inch. I love the smaller tables, the smaller machine attachments. And the form factor of this just makes me super happy. Unfortunately, it's a glorified drill press attachment, not a milling attachment. And I mean, I'm a little sad. I will admit, you don't often come across a piece that is so untouched and untrammeled, and also untrammable. But such as it is. So I don't know what to do with this thing. I mean, I'll check in with some of my friends with smaller shops and see if this is useful to anybody. And to be fair, I really went looking through the sort of discussion forums where people talk about this stuff, and no machinists had excellent things to say about Palmgren's XY below the rotary table arrangement. Now I'm on the hunt for a like 6 or 7 inch rotary table with an XY above it. That's my next goal. So terrific attachment for a drill press if one is in need of some regular hole drilling. Both in an XY and a rotary fashion. Not so useful for the machinist because of the backlash, the lack of ability to lock the scales, the X and Y, and because the X and Y shouldn't be underneath the rotary table for the utility a machinist wants out of a thing like this, or a combination of X, Y, and rotary action. So, yeah. We're just going to put this thing in the corner for a while and see if we can't find a nice home for it. But it was really nice to crack into a machine that was so pristine. That was nice. So we got that going for us. So that's nice.